When I returned from a 3-day business trip, I found my 6-year-old son alone in a dark room. I asked why he was alone and where Dad was. He replied, "Dad went on a trip to Italy with Grandma." I was filled with fury. At 32 years old, I am completely immersed in a challenging career as a machinery salesperson. This job requires frequent travel, allowing me to expand our network of clients throughout the country. My professional life is hectic but rewarding, as each new client represents a challenge and an opportunity for growth. My personal life took an exciting turn when I married Thomas, a co-worker I met at a company party. I remember that night clearly. The company had organized a big celebration for the successful launch of a new product, and we were all in a very good mood. Thomas and I ended up talking for hours, discovering that we had a lot in common, from our love for music to our professional ambitions. Over time, our relationship strengthened, and we decided to get married. It was a magical day, full of love and surrounded by our families and friends. Shortly after, we found out that we were going to be parents, which filled us with enormous joy and also nerves, of course. Asher's pregnancy was an exciting and challenging period for both of us, especially trying to balance our careers and preparing to be parents. The day Asher was born was one of the happiest of our lives. Thomas was by my side the entire time, holding my hand and offering words of encouragement. When Asher finally arrived, we were both overwhelmed with emotion. Thomas looked at Asher with tears in his eyes and said, "Can you believe it, Inaya? He is our son. He is perfect." I was too excited to talk as I held our little one for the first time. The first few months as parents were a roller coaster of emotions, with sleepless nights and precious moments. Despite the challenges, working as a team made us stronger. Although Thomas was very involved in his work, he always found time to be with Asher and me. We supported each other in everything, and he was a natural father. Sometimes when I returned from a business trip, I would find him reading Asher bedtime stories or playing with him in the living room. "We missed you, Mom," Thomas said with a tired but genuine smile, and I responded by leaving my suitcase and joining them. Life seemed to be in perfect balance with my career on the rise and a happy family life. However, over time, the demands of my job and frequent trips began to take their toll. Each farewell to Asher and Thomas became more difficult, and although I knew it was important for my professional development, I couldn't help but feel that I was missing precious moments at home. In my life, I learned the importance of communication and mutual support in a marriage, especially when you have demanding careers and a young son. Thomas and I found our home full of love and laughter, despite the challenges we faced throughout our commitment. In the first days after the arrival of our son Asher, our family life was what anyone could describe as perfect. Thomas had transformed into an exemplary husband and father, actively participating in Asher's care and supporting every aspect of our life together. Every morning before going to work, Thomas would get up early to prepare breakfast. I clearly remember those mornings full of laughter and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. One morning, while I was still in bed listening to the sounds that came from the kitchen, I could hear Thomas talking to Asher. "Good morning, champion," I told him with a soft and happy voice. "We are going to prepare something delicious for when Mom gets up." Asher's response was giggles and babbling, and I was smiling under the covers, feeling incredibly lucky to have them in my life. Thomas was not only supportive in the happy times, but also in the challenges. I remember one particular afternoon when Asher had a fever. I was scared, being a new mother, but Thomas stayed calm and took control of the situation. "Don't worry, Inaya," he reassured me while taking Asher's temperature. I'm going to take care of him tonight. You need to rest." And so he did. He stayed up all night, rocking Asher in his arms, walking back and forth in his room until the fever subsided. The next morning, although he was also exhausted, he greeted me with a smile. "The fever has gone down," he announced with a sigh of relief. "I think it was just a scare." On the weekends, Thomas dedicated all his time to the family. He organized small excursions to the local park, or we simply spent the day playing in the garden. He was the one who used to say, "It is important for Asher to grow up knowing that his parents are always here for him, both to play and to take care of him." And it was not only with Asher that Thomas had that patience and dedication. He also made sure that I felt supported. Knowing how much I liked literature, some Sunday mornings, he would surprise me with a new book. "I found this book, and I thought you would like it," he said with a smile, handing me a newly purchased copy, "so you can relax a little." This weekend, these gestures showed how much he cared not only about his son, but also about our well-being as a couple. Although our careers were demanding, we found time to strengthen our relationship by sharing interests and supporting each other in our roles as parents. At that time, our house was a refuge of love and laughter, where each day ended with bedtime stories. Thomas took a book, and with him snuggled between us, he read until our son's eyes began to close slowly. "And thus ends another adventure," Thomas whispered as he closed the book. "Now, to sleep, to be ready for the next time." These moments were simple, but deeply meaningful. The family harmony we enjoyed was the result of constant effort and the unconditional love that Thomas and I shared, not only with each other, but also with our son. It was an idyll that at that time seemed to last forever. However, over time, I began to notice a significant change in Thomas's behavior. Previously an attentive and present father and husband, little by little, he began to distance himself from Asher and me, dedicating more time to being with his mother, Emily, and frequenting her house. More regularly, Thomas's absence from his parents' home was becoming increasingly evident, and it was beginning to affect the harmony of our family relationship. Initially, the changes were subtle. Thomas began to arrive home from work late more often, excusing himself by saying his mother needed help with some repair work around the house, or that he simply wanted to keep her company because she was feeling lonely. One afternoon, when Thomas arrived especially late, I decided to express my concerns. "Thomas, lately, you've been coming home very late. Asher misses you and I do too. Is everything fine with your mother?" I asked him with a mixture of concern and frustration. "Yes, Mom, she's fine. She just feels a little lonely since Dad passed away. I feel like she needs more support," Thomas responded, avoiding my gaze. "I understand that you want to support your mother, but Asher and I also need you to be here. Maybe we could find a way to help your mother without sacrificing our family time," I suggested, hoping to open a constructive dialogue. Thomas nodded, but his commitment seemed more like an automatic response than a true intention to change. The days passed and his behavior remained the same. He began to spend not only afternoons but also weekends at his parents' house, leaving Asher and me planning activities just for two. One Saturday morning, while Asher played alone in his room, I decided to call Thomas, who once again had decided to stay at his mother's house for the weekend. "Hi, Thomas. When are you planning on coming home? Asher has been asking about you all day," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm sorry, Inaya, but Mom needs help organizing the attic, and it will probably take all day. Tell Asher I'm sorry, and I'll play with him tomorrow." His voice sounded distant and hurried. I hung up the phone, feeling a mixture of sadness and resignation. I didn't want to believe that Thomas was neglecting his family, but the evidence was becoming clearer. That night, when I put Asher to sleep, He asked me in a sad voice, "Mom, why? Why doesn't Dad come home like before? Dad is helping Grandma." "But he loves you very much, and I'm sure he will spend more time with us soon," I responded. Although doubts were beginning to grow in my heart, this pattern continued to develop. And every time Thomas decided to spend time with his mother instead of with us, I felt like the gap between us was widening. I tried several times to talk to him about how his absence affected our family, but he was evasive and sometimes even defensive. "Inaya, it's my mother and she's getting older. She needs my help," Thomas justified with a tone of voice that closed down any attempt at discussion. "But we need you too. Couldn't you balance your time a little better?" I insisted, looking for some solution that would allow us to keep our family together. However, no matter how hard I tried, Thomas seemed more and more determined to spend his time away from home. This gradual distancing not only created a fissure in our relationship, but also began to emotionally affect Asher, who did not understand why his father was so absent. The situation was becoming untenable, and I found myself increasingly lonelier in the effort to keep our family together. During a short but intense week, I prepared for a 3-day business trip that was crucial for my career. I had closed important deals and needed to be in several meetings in different cities before leaving. I spoke with Thomas about the importance of being present for our son, Asher, while I was away. "I need you to take care of Asher these days. I already left his food ready in the refrigerator, and the agenda for school is on the table," I told him while I was packing. "Don't worry, Inaya. I'll take care of everything. Go and concentrate on your meetings. Asher and I will be fine," Thomas responded with a reassuring smile. I left with a clear conscience, but something inside me felt a strange restlessness. However, the frenetic pace of the trip soon absorbed me, and between flights and meetings, I barely had time to think about anything other than business. On the 3rd day, exhausted but satisfied with the work done, I returned home. The plane landed late, and I drove straight from the airport, anxious to see Asher and Thomas and tell them everything about the trip. However, when I arrived, something was not right. The house was dark and silent, something unusual for that time of night. "Thomas? Asher? I'm home," I called while opening the door with my key. There was no answer. My heart began to beat faster as I turned on the lights. The house was completely silent. I walked towards the living room and then towards Asher's room, hoping to find them perhaps asleep. But there was no one. Asher's bed was intact, and the feeling of concern quickly turned into panic. I checked the rest of the house and confirmed my fears. I was completely alone. I picked up my phone and called Thomas, but his phone was off. I tried several times without success. Confused and increasingly worried, I decided to call Thomas's parents, thinking that maybe they had decided to make a last-minute visit. "Hello, Emily. Is Thomas or Asher there with you?" I asked with a shaky voice when Emily answered the phone. "Oh, Inaya dear, no. Thomas took me to Italy. I needed a change of scenery and we decided to take a quick trip," Emily said. "What? Thomas didn't tell you?" Emily answered with a nonchalance that made my blood run cold. "But Italy and Asher, where is Asher?" I broke down in panic. "I'm sorry, darling, I have no idea. Thomas said that everything was arranged for Asher. You should talk to him," Emily said, clearly oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. I hung up and felt as if the world was collapsing around me. My son had been left alone. Without wasting a second, I called the police and the neighbors, asking them to check if, by chance, Asher was with them. Luckily, one neighbor, seeing that Asher was alone, had taken him home to take care of him. I ran to the neighbor's house. and seeing Asher running towards me with tears in his eyes, all the relief in the world could not calm the anger and betrayal I felt. Mom, why did Dad and Grandma leave? They left me alone, Asher said between sobs. I'm so sorry, darling. You're safe. This won't happen again. Let's make sure of it, I said, hugging him tightly. That night, while Asher slept safely in his bed, I made the most difficult decision of my life. The trust I had placed in Thomas had been completely broken, and I knew that things would have to change for my son. His safety was my priority, and I would do whatever it took to protect him, even if it meant making decisions that would change our lives forever. I was devastated and outraged. I found myself facing the most difficult moments of my life when Thomas, whom I had promised to be by my side, fell deeply. Dear Asher, when I was traveling to Italy with Sue, I was incensed as my heart broke. I decided that Thomas could no longer be a part of our family. When I arrived at my parents' house with Asher, the support I received was immediate. My mother opened the door for us, and when she saw our faces, she knew something was wrong. What happened? Inaya asked with concern, noticing my tired face and Asher's teary eyes. Mom, I need to talk to both of you and Dad too. It's about Thomas, I said, trying to maintain my composure. My parents sat us down in the living room and Asher snuggled up next to me while I told them everything that happened, from Thomas's unexpected trip to the moment I found the house empty and discovered the truth. My father, always a man of few words, pursed his lips and frowned at every detail. It is unacceptable, Inaya. You can't let this happen again. You are at home here, and Asher will be safe, said my father, putting a hand on mine. My mother, for her part, was furious and could not believe what Thomas had done. How could he do something like that to them, leave his own son alone? No, this definitely cannot be forgiven. You have our full support, daughter, she stated with determination. With the support of my parents, I took the decision to start the divorce process. It was not easy. Every step I took towards that final decision filled me with doubts and sadness for the future I had imagined for us as a family. However, I knew it was the right thing to do to protect Asher and myself. The next day, I looked for a lawyer specialized in family law. The meeting was tough, but illuminating. Based on the events you describe, you have solid grounds for requesting a divorce due to negligence and abandonment, the lawyer explained. In addition, it is essential to guarantee the safety and well-being of your child. I understand. I want to make sure Asher is protected in all of this. I don't want his father to disappear from his life, but we need to establish certain guarantees, I responded, feeling the heaviness of each word. The lawyer nodded and began to draw up the necessary documents. Meanwhile, at home, my mother took care of Asher, making sure he felt loved and cared for. I would often find her hugging Asher or reading him a book, trying to bring normalcy back to his little world. Everything is going to be okay, Asher. Mom and grandparents are here for you, I assured him. And so, through the pain of betrayal and the firmness of a necessary decision, began a new chapter in our lives. Despite the emotional tumult, I felt strengthened by the unconditional support of my parents and the innocent resilience of Asher. I was determined to rebuild our life step by step, with certainty that although the road would be difficult, we would be safer and ultimately happier. The divorce process was not only emotionally exhausting, but also brought to light more heartbreaking details about Thomas's behavior. What I discovered during this period not only solidified my decision to separate, but also ignited a new layer of betrayal and pain. One day, while reviewing financial documents with my lawyer to better understand our joint financial situation, we came across transactions that I did not recognize. large sums of money had been transferred from a savings account that we had opened for another account exclusively for Asher's educational future. After investigating, we discovered that it was used to buy plane tickets to Italy. "This can't be right," I murmured. "I was supposed to be taking care of Asher," I explained to the lawyer, showing the documents with clarity. I felt as if the ground were crumbling beneath my feet. Not only had I left Asher alone, but I had also used the money meant for his future to do so. I decided to confront Thomas with this information. I needed to hear his explanation. Although in my heart, I knew that nothing he said could justify his actions. Later that day, I called Thomas and asked him to meet me in a public place. I was too emotional to have this conversation at home. "Thomas, I need you to explain to me why you used Asher's money for your trip to Italy," I said as soon as we sat down. Thomas's gaze wavered, and for a moment it looked like he was going to deny it. But then he lowered his head and sighed. "I'm sorry, Inaya. It was a last-minute decision. My mother wanted to take that trip, and I didn't think so. I didn't think about the consequences," he murmured. "You didn't think? We are talking about your son's future, Thomas." Anger and frustration made my voice rise higher than I had planned. I know, and I am very sorry. It was a mistake, and I am willing to do what is necessary to correct it," he said. Although his words sounded empty to my ears, after that meeting, my lawyer and I proceeded with the divorce with new vigor. We presented evidence of misuse of funds as a key part of the case. The process was long and painful, with many sessions in which more details about Thomas's negligence and irresponsibility were revealed. During one of the hearings, the judge finally spoke after reviewing all the documents. "It is evident that there has been a serious lack of judgment and responsibility on the part of the man. Not only has he demonstrated negligence in his role as a father, but also a misappropriation of family funds," the judge declared. The ruling was in my favor, and strict measures were established to ensure that Asher's well-being would be protected in the future. Thomas would have to replace the funds used, and additional conditions were set for his visits to Asher, assuring that his influence would be supervised. Leaving the courtroom that day, I felt exhausted, but also relieved. I had protected my son and ensured his future, something that should never have been in jeopardy. Despite the emotional tumult and the legal battles, I knew I had made the right decision. The divorce process closed a painful chapter in our lives, but also opened a new path to recovery and hope. After the tumultuous divorce process, I decided to fully focus on rebuilding my personal and professional life. I knew I had to be strong, not only for myself, but also for Asher, who needed a stable and loving environment more than ever. I dedicated myself with renewed vigor to my work, putting in long hours and demonstrating my commitment to each project assigned by my boss. My colleagues noticed this increase in my effort and dedication, which eventually led to an opportunity that would change our situation even more. One day, after a team meeting in which I had presented a project that I had successfully led, my boss told me to stay for a moment after everyone else had left. "Inaya, I've been watching your performance these last few months," he began, looking at me with a mixture of seriousness, "and I appreciate your dedication. It has exceeded all expectations, and I think it is time for that to be recognized appropriately." I felt a knot in my stomach, waiting for his next words with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. "What do you mean, Mr. Gomez?" I asked, trying to maintain my composure. "I want to offer you the position of regional manager. It is a major responsibility, but I am sure that you are more than qualified to take on this role," he explained, handing me a folder with the details of what my new position would be. I could not contain my excitement, and for a moment, the tears threatened to overflow. However, I held them back, knowing that this was a moment of triumph, not only professional, but personal. "Thank you, sir," I accepted with great honor and commitment, responding by shaking his hand firmly. That night, when I got home, I couldn't wait to share the news with my parents and Asher. The three of us were having dinner when I decided to make the announcement. "Mom, Dad, Asher, I have something very important to tell you," I said, getting their full attention. "What's going on, Mom?" asked Asher, looking at me curiously. "I've received a promotion at work. Now I will be the regional manager," I explained, watching their reactions. My parents looked at me with pride and joy and got up from their chairs to hug me. "We are so proud of you, Inaya. We always knew you could achieve anything you set your mind to," my mother said, with tears of happiness shining in her eyes. "Your mother is right," my father added. "You have shown incredible strength and dedication, especially after everything you've been through." An excited Asher joined the group hug, and together we celebrated that moment. We decided to go out to dinner that weekend to celebrate properly. We chose our favorite restaurant, and the night was full of laughter, conversations about future plans, and above all, a feeling of unity and renewed hope. This achievement not only marked a milestone in my career, but also represented a symbol of our ability to overcome adversity and move forward. At that time, more than ever, I felt that I was a role model in perseverance and success, not just for myself, but for Asher as well. Later in my career, I made sure that my life and that of my son moved towards a promising and secure future. The difficult situation I experienced after the divorce and betrayal of Thomas was an intense and deeply transformative lesson in the importance of resilience and family support. I learned that resilience is not only the ability to bounce back from life's hard knocks, but also the ability to grow and find strength in the midst of adversity. One day, while sitting in the park with my son Asher reflecting on the past events, he asked me, "Mom, are you sad about Dad?" His question took me by surprise, but it also offered me the opportunity to teach him something valuable. "Asher, sometimes people face very difficult situations, but the important thing is how we respond to those situations," I explained to him calmly. "Although yes, there are times when I feel sad, I have also learned that we are strong and can overcome anything, especially when we have the support of the people who love us." Asher looked at me with his eyes full of incipient understanding and nodded. "Like superheroes, right, Mom? They always find a way to make things better, even when it's difficult, exactly like superheroes." I smiled, giving him a hug. That night, when sharing dinner with my parents, I expressed my gratitude for all their support. We sat around the table, enjoying a homemade meal, and I said, "Mom, Dad, I want to thank you for everything you have done for Asher and me. I don't know what I would have done without you during these difficult times." My mother took me by the hand and said in a soft voice, "Daughter, you don't have to thank us. We are family, and family is there to support each other, no matter how difficult the circumstances are." My father nodded his head, adding, "We are proud of how you have handled everything, Inaya. You have shown incredible strength. Remember that we will always be here for you." That moment was as enlightening as it was comforting. It made me realize that my ability to face and overcome adversity was not only a testament to my own strength, but also a reflection of the constant love and support of my family. In the months that followed, every challenge at work or at home became another opportunity to apply and teach resilience. Whether it was a difficult meeting at the office or helping Asher with his schoolwork, I approached each situation with a new perspective, always remembering to stay calm and seek constructive solutions. In my work, my colleagues and superiors also noticed this renewed strength. One day, my boss told me, "Inaya, We really admire your ability to handle difficult situations with such grace and professionalism. Your resilience is an inspiration to everyone here. Thank you, I answered sincerely. I have learned that no matter how difficult the problem is, there is always a way to move forward if you keep hope and work hard. These experiences taught me that resilience is not only about facing challenges, but also about transforming adversity into growth and wisdom. I deeply appreciate the people around me who value my work and dedication, and I am committed to passing these lessons on to my son, strengthening our bond and preparing for any challenges the future may throw at us. After the divorce, Thomas and his mother, Emily, found themselves navigating turbulent waters regarding their financial situation. Over the years, they had maintained a luxurious lifestyle that was unsustainable, resulting in a considerable accumulation of debt. These problems worsened after the legal consequences of the divorce forced Thomas to take on additional financial responsibilities. One day, at a neighborhood cafe where they used to go to discuss their affairs, Thomas and Emily sat down to face the reality of their financial situation. They had brought with them stacks of bills and bank statements, a tangible reminder of their serious situation. "Mom, we have spent much more than we can afford, and now with the divorce settlement payments, I don't know how we're going to handle all this," Thomas said, frowning as he passed one bill after another. Emily, who had always enjoyed a comfortable standard of living without worries, was visibly worried but still somewhat disconnected from the magnitude of the problem. "It really is that bad, Thomas? Maybe we just need to adjust some expenses here and there. We always got ahead," she answered, trying to keep an optimistic tone. "No, Mom, it's not that simple this time. We're talking about debts that run into thousands, not just minor adjustments. We need to make drastic changes to our way of living," Thomas explained seriously. The conversation continued, and they decided that it was necessary to make a strict budget and reduce superfluous expenses. However, making those adjustments was more challenging than Emily had imagined. The first step was getting rid of unnecessary luxuries, such as expensive dinners, premium subscriptions, and trips that were not essential. "Are you saying that I have to stop going to the golf club, Thomas? That is part of my social life. It is important to me," Emily expressed frustration during one of their planning meetings. "I understand it, Mom, but those expenses are no longer viable. We need to think about our long-term financial stability," Thomas tried to reason with her. Over time, Thomas found a more stable job, although not as lucrative as the projects he used to work on. This marked a significant change in his daily dynamic, as he had to adapt to a more rigorous and less flexible schedule. "This new job is not what I am used to, but at least it is a fixed income. We have to adjust to this reality, Mom," commented Thomas one day after returning from work, tired but determined. Although reluctant at first to accept the seriousness of their situation, Emily gradually began to understand the importance of living within their means. The sacrifices were hard but necessary. They sold some assets such as jewelry and a luxury car to pay off part of their debts. "I guess it's time to be more practical with money. I never thought we would have to sell the car. But if it helps us be more financially calm, then it is worth it," Emily admitted, finally accepting the reality of her new life. Through these experiences, both Thomas and Emily learned valuable lessons about money management and the importance of adapting to unexpected changes. Although the road was difficult, these challenges forced them to reconsider their priorities and plan more carefully for their financial future. Since I made the decision to divorce and face the new reality as a single mother, I have dedicated myself tirelessly to work. Not only for my well-being, but also for that of Asher and that of my parents, who have been my unwavering support during this stage of my life. Although marked by challenges, it has also been a period of profound personal growth and strengthening of family ties. One afternoon, after a particularly long workday, I came home to find Asher doing his homework in the kitchen under my mother's watchful eye. "How was work, Inaya?" my mother asked as I walked over to give him a hug. "It was an exhausting day, Mom, but every effort is worth it. It's sad to see Asher growing up in a stable and happy environment. It gives me all the energy I need," I responded with a smile, watching as Asher concentrated on his books. "Mom works a lot for us. Right, Asher?" I said, looking up from his notebook. "That's right, honey, and we're very happy. Proud of her. We are all in this together, supporting each other," my mother added as I nodded, grateful for her constant presence. These types of interactions had become the basis of our daily lives, where each small achievement of Asher or each success in my work was celebrated as victories of our entire small family team. On the weekends, we would take time to do activities together, whether it was going to local parks, visiting museums to feed Asher's curiosity, or simply watching movies at home, strengthening our bond and creating lasting memories. One day, while we were in the park, Asher ran up to me with a giant autumn leaf he had found. "Look what I found, Mom. It's almost as big as my head," he said excitedly, showing off his find. "It's beautiful, Asher. Nature always has something amazing to show us," I responded, taking the leaf and using the time to teach him about trees and the seasons of the year. "You know, I like it when we learn things together. It makes me feel closer to you," Asher commented, and those simple words filled my heart with joy and a renewed sense of purpose. My parents were also an active part of this educational and emotional process. My father often took the time to teach Asher how to repair things around the house or tend the garden, while my mother shared recipes and sewing skills with him, passing wisdom from generation to generation. "Asher, come here and I'll show you how to plant these seeds," my father said during one of our weekends dedicated to the garden, "and they will grow and become flowers or food." Asher asked with curiosity, "Some will be flowers and others will be vegetables that you can eat? Each seed has a purpose, just like each one of us in the family," my father explained, making an analogy that Asher could understand and value. Reflecting on these moments, I realize how much I have grown not only as a professional, but as a mother and daughter by working hard for the well-being of my family. I have learned that resilience, love, and mutual support are key to overcoming any obstacle. These values are what I strive to instill in Asher every day, ensuring he has a solid foundation not only in education and resources, but also in family values and love. These life lessons, I hope, will guide him to become a strong, compassionate, and responsible person, prepared to face his own future with confidence. Learning from the past and from my experiences, my vision for the future has become much clearer. I understand now more than ever what really matters: my family, my career, and the well-being of my son Asher. I am committed to moving forward with a renewed spirit, confident that as a united and strong family, we can overcome any challenge that comes our way. One Sunday afternoon, while we were sitting in our garden enjoying the gentle autumn breeze, I decided to share my reflections and future plans with my parents and Asher. "Asher, grandparents, I want to talk to you about our plans for the future," I began, capturing their attention. "I have been thinking a lot about what we have been through and what awaits us." Asher, with the curiosity of his 10 years old, looked at me expectantly, always excited about any adventure we planned together. "Mom, let's go somewhere new," he asked with a smile. "Not exactly, honey," I responded, returning the smile. "Rather, I'm talking about how we're going to face the challenges and take advantage of the opportunities in front of us. I'm going to make sure that you have everything you need for your education and for you to grow up happy and healthy. My parents nodded with approval, always supporting the direction I had taken in raising Asher. And that's not all, I continued. I also want you to know that I am going to continue working hard on my career. I have learned that being strong and dedicated not only helps me professionally, but also teaches you and me the value of effort and perseverance. My mother spoke up, her soft but firm voice filling the air with her usual wisdom. Inaya, your father and I have always known that you have the ability to cope with any situation. You have shown us time and time again that your strength and determination are unbreakable. We are here for whatever you need. Thank you, Mom, Dad, I said, feeling an emotional warmth that strengthened my resolve even more. My father, always the most practical, suggested that we set some specific goals for the next year. Why don't we make a list of goals? Asher proposed. What would you like to learn or achieve in the next year? Asher thoughtfully for a moment, then responded enthusiastically. I want to learn to play the guitar and maybe start playing soccer with the school team. Perfect, I said. It's important to have goals and work towards them. And talking about goals, I also want to improve our vacation. Let's plan something special for next summer, something we will all enjoy together. The conversation was filled with ideas and future projects, from music lessons to possible holiday destinations. It was evident that despite the difficulties faced, our unity as a family had made us stronger and more resilient. With this clear vision of the future, I know that any obstacle I face, we will overcome together. This renewed commitment not only to my career, but also to my family, is the foundation on which we will build a promising future full of love, learning, and shared adventures. I am excited about what the future holds and confident that as a family, nothing can stop us. If you like this story, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The other video that appears on the screen will probably move you. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next video.